Georgetown College sat down for a conversation with Erin Cline, Senior Research Fellow in the Department of Theology and Religious Studies, to discuss her upcoming book, Little Sprouts, The Dao of Parenting, Ancient Chinese Philosophy, and the Art of Raising Mindful, Resilient, and Compassionate Kids.
I work especially on ancient texts, ancient Confucianism and Taoism, so 3rd century, 4th century BCE texts. But I'm also the mother of 3 young children, and as I became a parent, I increasingly became aware that I was really very personally influenced by my work and by the things that I read, by the texts that I translate from ancient Chinese into English, by the books that I write, and I started to notice the ways in which they inform me as a parent. And so the inspiration for this book sort of comes from some of these playground conversations that I've had with other parents, where we'll be standing around watching our kids play, and well, what do you do? Well, I'm a professor at Georgetown, and what do you teach? And well, I teach Chinese philosophy. And immediately the question that I would tend to get in response was, oh, so what kind of parent does that make you? Does it make you a tiger mother? And I found myself saying, actually, it's kind of the opposite.
Right.
And it was those questions that really led me to start thinking more about how my work has influenced my own parenting. I have found so much in the texts that I study that have helped me to be a better parent. And the truth is that the task of parenting is really, really hard, and it's exhausting, and every child is different, and every family has a different shape. And so that makes kind of issuing broad standards for parenting in terms of what everyone should do, I think, kind of an impossible task and not a good task. And a part of what I love about Chinese tradition, especially the ancient Chinese tradition, is that you have a lot of different voices in the conversation, and they didn't agree about everything. They offer a lot of different perspectives, different approaches, different strategies, different ways of thinking about what's good and meaningful in life, different ways of thinking about not just what to do with our children, but how to be with our children. And so I find, even just within the context of my own family and my 3 kids, I find myself drawing on early Taoist approaches, different kinds of early Confucian approaches, all those different voices. And sometimes I need sort of one approach, and sometimes I need another approach. It's a diverse tradition with a lot of different voices, and that's a part of what makes it so helpful. My goal is to bring the lessons that I found in these wonderful texts to other people, and to make them accessible to people who are not like translating the text that I'm translating, or not taking a class. But they're definitely not my lessons or my ideas. I do, though, talk a lot about my own experience as a parent, and my experience in my life losing my father recently, and taking my children through the journey of grief and mourning rituals, thinking about what it means to be in nature and to appreciate nature and develop and nurture in my children a love of nature, and how I've been affected by that too. So I do include a lot of my own experience, but all with the aim of illustrating what I think these early texts are trying to get at. One of the most famous and enduring metaphors in ancient Chinese philosophy is the metaphor used by Mencius, a 3rd century BCE philosopher. And Mengzi thought that we all have moral sprouts within us, and he used this idea of nurturing sprouts day in, day out, getting them the right balance of water and sunlight, being in good soil, sometimes covering them over and protecting them from a frost, protecting them from the cold, making sure that they're getting everything that they needed in order to help them grow into healthy plants. And so the metaphor of children as little sprouts, I think is helpful. It's one of the helpful ways of thinking about our task as a parent, and the ways in which we have to offer different kinds of nurturance and support. And sometimes one of the things we need to do is to step back and avoid tugging on the sprouts. So one of the stories that Mengzi tells is the story of a farmer who was so anxious for his sprouts to grow that he started pulling on them to try to get them to come up a little bit more quickly, and he uprooted them, and they were destroyed. And we can certainly easily do that out of love for our children, out of what we want for our children.
This concludes our interview with Erin Cline. If you are interested in learning more, Little Sprouts will be available for purchase on April 21st of 2020.